purposeful. The purpose of this lecture is that you should acquire knowledge that will help you answer every single question in your board's exam, and you will be able to write good, cogent answer that will help you score more in your examination. That means your ultimate motive is to attend these lectures to make yourself understand the basics of democratic politics. And this will also help you in your further classes or in future if you want to opt for civil services. I will make the subject very interesting and make you fall in love with this subject. Now you must be thinking which book you should prefer. The answer is to follow my lectures, make short notes, and after that you can prefer your all-in-one, and for practicing you can choose any of your model test paper to make your revision thorough. You need to be thorough with this subject. So till now what we have understand, we have seen the significance of this chapter, this subject and its future aspect. Now what power sharing is all about? What is power sharing? Power sharing is the sharing of power among legislature, executive and judiciary. As you all know that legislature is your lawmaking body, executive is your implementing body, and judiciary is the one which checks the validity of these laws. So the power is shared among these three democratic bodies. Now to understand this synchronization, we will read some basics. We need to start from scratch. That means we need to first study what is constitution, what are the types of constitution, and separation of power. In this separation of power, we will study your doctrine of checks and balances. After reading these all concepts, you will be able to understand power sharing in a much more detailed manner. Then we will take example of two countries, Sri Lanka and Belgium, to understand power sharing in a much more detailed manner. Then we will move on to our very important question, that is why power sharing is desirable and what are the forms of power sharing in modern democracy. So let's get started by understanding what our constitution is. What is constitution all about? So what is constitution? If I give you a simple definition, then constitution is supreme law of land which enjoys special legal sanctity. Now you must be thinking, what is the supreme law of land and which enjoys special legal sanctity? Now let's elaborate on this definition. What is this supreme law of land? We have a hierarchy. On the top we have constitution, then there are laws passed by the legislature. We have the rules and regulations passed by the government from time to time. And in this hierarchy, we need to understand that constitution is the supreme law of land which is on the top of our hierarchy, which enjoys special legal sanctity. What does that mean? Can a law, these rules and regulations, violated by the constitution? The answer is yes. But can a parliament violate the constitution? The answer is clear-cut no. That means every single law passed by the parliament shall have to conform with constitution. So the constitution definition is, it is a document of people's faith and aspirations, like justice, liberty, fraternity, equality, unity. These all are the aspirations people have from our constitution. So constitution is supreme law of land which enjoys special legal sanctity. Every law passed by the legislature, parliament, shall have to conform to this constitution. If any law that parliament is making is not in agreement with the provisions of the constitution, that law shall be declared null and void. So what is constitution in a nutshell? It is a supreme law of land which enjoys special legal sanctity. It is a document of people's faith and aspirations, and it clearly defines the role of three organs, that is legislature, executive and judiciary. Now we have to discuss what are the various types of constitution. Constitution can be written constitution, or it can be unwritten constitution. It can also be an enacted constitution, or it can also be an evolved constitution. Furthermore, it can be a unitary one, or it can be a federal constitution. Now let's discuss one by one all these types of constitution in detail. First up, let's start with written constitution. What is written constitution? What kind of constitution India has? A constitution can be termed as a written constitution if its laws are written and codified in one single document. What does this mean? If you ask me, show me the Constitution of United States of America, I will give you a document in which all the laws are written and codified. Similarly, if you ask about Indian Constitution, I will hand over a bulky document to you where all the laws are integrated, summed up and codified into a one single document. For example, in our Indian Constitution, like Part 1, which deals with Union and its territories, then Part 2 talks about citizenship. Part 3 talks about our fundamental rights, what are the rights, and for violation of these rights we can reach to Supreme Court. So all these are fundamental rights which is given in Part 3 of our Constitution with articles mentioned. Part 4 of our Indian Constitution talks about directive principles of state policies, DPSPs, and Part 4A talks about fundamental duties, etc. So in a nutshell, written constitution is one where every law can be seen in from one single document. Thus, we can conclude here that judiciary is supreme. Why judiciary is supreme? Why I am saying that judiciary is supreme? Because all the laws are written, and these written laws will tell which act should be passed or which act shouldn't be passed. If the act is in conformity with our constitution, it will prevail. Otherwise, Supreme Court will struck down that law. That law shall be declared null and void. On the contrary to written constitution, we have unwritten constitution. That means laws are not written and are not codified in one single document. Here, convention plays a very important role, and no efforts have been made to codify and integrate these laws. Their parliament is supreme. Whatever is decided by the parliament is all and all is what is constitution. So in unwritten constitution we can say that parliament is supreme. The example of unwritten constitution is Britain, New Zealand. Some rules and laws are practiced since from a very long time, and it is practiced till now. Thus, no need to codify them. People in England does not feel to codify these laws. Then comes to our enacted and evolved constitution. In case of enacted constitution, a body is framed to deal with their formation. For example, in India, Constituent Assembly is formed. Constituent Assembly is a specified body formed to frame the constitution, which came into force on 26 November 1950. Then what is evolved constitution is all about? So, unwritten constitutions, that means all unwritten constitutions are evolved constitution. So in enacted constitution, there is a supremacy of constitution. That means laws are written and we have to abide by those laws. Whereas in evolved constitution, there is a supremacy of parliament. This is very important. Now, let's move on to our very important part in types of constitution. That is our unitary and federal constitution. In case of a unitary constitution, all powers are concentrated with the center. That is, powers are concentrated with one single authority. There is only delegation of powers rather than distribution of powers. In case of delegation of powers, the power can be taken back at any point in time. But in case of federal constitution, power is shared between center and state. So, there is a 5-point test to check if a country has a federal constitution or not. The number 1 point, the very first point you need to check is distribution of power. Now, after checking the very first point, that is distribution of power, we need to check, is there a dual government? That is, there should be a government at the center level, then there should be a government at state level, and then can be a government at your lower level also. Constitution need to be written is the third point we need to check. There should be a supremacy of the constitution as well as rigidity of the constitution. What is rigidity means? Like what exactly rigidity of the constitution means? That means changes in constitution done by the joint efforts of center and state. And the last point that we need to check is judiciary is independent. That means supremacy of our constitution. After studying the constitution and its types, let's quickly move on to the concept of separation of power, where we will discuss the doctrine of checks and balances. Now, we shall discuss the theory of separation of powers. This theory was given by Montesquieu, a French philosopher. James Madison said, "Concentration of all powers in the single individual is the worst example of tyranny." What does this mean? In a simple word, if you put all your eggs in one basket, then there will be a chance of greater loss. Similarly, if power is in the hands of only one individual, then there will be no one to check the individual, and it becomes the worst case of tyranny. Montesquieu said, there are 3 organs of the state: legislature, which make laws; executive, which implement laws, you can say implementing body; judiciary, which checks the validity of these laws, whether these laws are in conformity with the constitution or not. According to Montesquieu, these 3 organs should be separated in a watertight management. What does this means? Means those who are a part of legislature should not be the member of executive nor of judiciary. Similarly, in case of executive, those who are a part of executive should not be a part of legislature and judiciary. And those who are a part of judiciary should not be a part of legislature as well as executive. So there should be a clear-cut separation of power, and all the three organs should be separated from each other by a watertight management. Now, why this separation of power is important? It is important because separation of power is the principal feature of democracy. To conclude, all power should be concentrated and there should be a clear-cut separation of power. That means all power shouldn't be concentrated and there should be a clear-cut separation of power. Let's take example of India. In India, we follow parliamentary system of a government where cabinet is supreme, not the president. In this cabinet form of government, there are not a separation of power in a very clear way. We cannot see separation of power. Why there is no separation of power? This is because legislature is directly elected by the people or indirectly by the people. Members of Rajya Sabha is indirectly elected and Rajya Sabha is indirectly elected chamber. And from these legislative members, executives are derived. For example, Prime Minister Modi, he is the member of legislature as well as executive. Thus, executives are taken from legislature. Thus, we can say there is no clear-cut separation of powers between legislature and executive. Now, what about judiciary? Article 50 of our Constitution clearly mentions about separation of power between executive and judiciary. To implement it, we have made Criminal Procedure Code laws in 1950, where powers from district collector were snatched and a new post of district judge is created, and all the judicial powers were given to judge. Now let's see a small concept of doctrine of checks and balances. In case of legislature and executive, there is no separation of powers, but who keeps check on legislature? The answer is judiciary. We have discussed it earlier. All the laws passed by the legislature should be in conformity with the constitution as well as with judiciary. If it is not, then judiciary will declare it null and void. Executive is checked by both judiciary and legislature. Judiciary via process of judicial review, which is a part of basic structure. For example, Prime Minister is a part of executive. Through various question sessions, legislature keeps check via question hour and different motions, etc. So we ask ourselves a question, then we have a doctrine of checks and balances. But if we ask about separation of powers, then we do not have a clear-cut separation of powers. So in a nutshell, we have a doctrine of checks and balances, but we do not have a clear-cut separation of powers. So what we have read till now, we have read about Constitution, that what is Constitution? Constitution is the document of people's faith and aspirations. We read about the types of Constitution: unitary, federal, enacted, evolved, and the very first concept of written and unwritten Constitution. Then we discussed theory of separation of power along with doctrine of checks and balances. In our next session, we will discuss about Sri Lanka and how power is shared and how power is distributed, along with the example of Belgium. Thank you.